this video, I'm going to give you 10 cold weather photography tips and tricks so that you can have a more enjoyable winter photography experience and hopefully take some better photos. So let's get right into those tips. Tip number 1, bring extra batteries. As many of you know, cold weather affects the performance of your batteries. It affects the chemical reactions and how the battery powers your camera, and batteries just tend to die quicker. So always bring extra batteries with you on your trip and try and keep them warm. Throw them in your jacket pocket, put them in your pants pocket, but try and keep those batteries as warm as possible when you do bring those extra batteries on your trip. My second tip is to keep your gear dry. Make sure that your camera is weatherproof, but even if it is, make sure you're keeping your gear dry. That may mean bringing an extra hat and putting it on top of your camera, putting your camera in a bag, or there are lots of options for camera jackets, but be sure to keep your gear dry. Nothing will kill your winter photography experience like getting a wet camera or doing damage to your camera gear. Tip number 3 is to dress warm, and one of the best ways to do that is to dress in layers. Breathable layers. Layers give you the ability to take layers off when you get too hot or put more layers on when you get too cold. Make sure you're protecting your extremities. Wear gloves to protect your hands, wear nice warm socks to protect your feet, and always wear a hat to keep your head warm because that is where you lose the majority of your body heat in winter. Tip number 4 is hand warmers. Hand warmers for your hands and for your photography gear. When I'm out shooting long time lapses, for example, I love to put a hand warmer on top of my lens because, as I said before, the cold affects your gear and you don't want those servos and things inside your lens slowing down or freezing up. Also, throw some hand warmers in your pocket, throw 1 or 2 in your camera bag to keep your camera gear nice and warm, but hand warmers are a great way to stay comfortable and keep your gear functioning. Tip number 5 is to overexpose or expose to the right. The light meter in your camera is always aiming to make things in your image a neutral gray or 50% gray. If you're shooting a snowy scene on like a bright sunny day, your camera is going to try and make all of that white into a very dark gray and underexpose your shot, which will lead to problems later. So expose maybe 1 stop to the right or overexpose by a stop to get more natural looking snow. Tip number 6 is to use a UV filter and a lens hood. That UV filter is going to protect your lens from the direct elements like precipitation, and that's really bad in cities when there's a lot of pollution in the snow and the rain. And also use a lens hood so you're not smearing water all over your lens. That in general will just keep most of the precipitation off of your lens. Tip number 7 is to bring a camera bag. I feel like this one should go without saying, but if possible, get a weatherproof bag, one that's water resistant or waterproof, or at least make sure that the bag that you have protects your camera or has an outer covering. A lot of the low pro bags that I have are all weather bags, which means they come with a little raincoat. Just make sure you're protecting your camera gear. Tip number 8 is bring a buddy. It's always more fun to go shoot with someone else, have someone to talk to. It will extend your stay in the cold because having someone to talk to will distract you if it's a little bit chilly. Also, it's good to be safe, and in case anything goes wrong, like you get injured on a hike, it's always good to have at least a second person with you. Tip number 9 is bad weather equals good photos. For the most part, bad weather leads to unique clouds, interesting atmospheric effects, and a whole bunch of things that are going to lead to cooler looking, more dramatic photos. And lastly, tip number 10 is to use caution when using a tripod, especially if your tripod has metal pieces or metal legs. You don't want to accidentally freeze your hand to your tripod legs. So I recommend always using gloves when handling your tripod, or look at picking up a couple tripod leg protectors. They come in all sorts of colors and camo, and I will link to them down in the description. So that is all for this cold weather photography tips and tricks video. Hopefully you learned something, and if you did, hit that like button. Be sure to share this video with a friend that enjoys photography, and as always, subscribe so you're getting all of my tips, tricks, and hacks videos. And until next time, get out and go shoot.